Ready?
No.
You wanted this. I'm back with the Eahora M1PS. I've got more power and more wheels. And I should also mention, this thing is officially road legal now. So no more concerns about plates or licensing. My only concern now, honestly, is handling. This is actually my first sidecar experience, and it's been a learning experience to say the least.
That was not clear to me. Oh, my mirror is all crooked. Who messed up my mirror? There we go. I got one that I can see out of. If I tried looking for photos of the sidecar, and I realized most of them just show pets in the sidecar. They got like a dog or something in there. I think maybe I saw one video that had a kid in it, none with an adult, and there's a reason for that. It's just not big enough for an adult to sit in it. And even if you could, we've discovered that weight-wise, the suspension can't handle it. If you have an adult on the bike, another adult weight in the sidecar, it bottoms out. You can't even go over the smallest of speed bumps without scraping the ground. So if you were hoping this would be a cool little thing for two adult people, unfortunately, no, it's just not made for that. But I still think it's cool. I've already had one person yell out their window saying they like the bike, and it's awesome. Now, I've heard this before, but like I said, this is my first time experiencing a sidecar. Basically, your left turns are different from your right turns. This mirror keeps coming loose. I did not bring a wrench for that, unfortunately. I know this mirror's going to be in a funky spot, but I didn't bring a wrench, so I can't tighten that down. Well, the handling is definitely different. Also, I mentioned that this bike has more power. I tuned it up. This has a far driver controller in it, tuned to 70 amps from Eahora, but it's a 150 amp controller. Also a but, there's a 100 amp breaker next to the battery, so you shouldn't turn it up past that, but I did anyway, and so far I have yet to trip the breaker. I don't know why, although I have been taking it kind of easy, just doing short bursts of that power. I did a dyno run of the power upgrade, so I'll show you what that's like, but it's actually a pretty amazing difference.
To be 100% clear, I'm not recommending this. I don't know how well this is gonna last. I don't know if anything is gonna fail over time by pushing the bike this hard, but it's working so far. So I'm gonna do a dyno test on this bike and see how much power we got just by changing the programming. So I have not changed the controller, not changed the battery, not changed the motor. All this was taking the far drive controller that's inside and turning it up from the 70 amps it was stock to the 150 amps that the controller is actually rated for. Now there is a breaker under the battery that says 100 amps. Don't know why we haven't tripped that yet, but we haven't. And the battery's probably not rated for this. So there's a lot of variables here. I'm just taking a risk and trying it so we can see what happens. Let's try gear 3, which is maximum power. 3, 2, 1. Woo-hoo. Surprisingly, even though this tire is crazy wide, we still got some tire slip on there. But let's see what sort of powers we got once it hooked up. Why isn't this reading anything? Let's try this again. I'm not doing very good here. Close. Let's close this. Close that. Close this. Yes. Reopen. There we go. I was having some technical problems. Let's see, where's the original? So the original numbers 5,116 watts, basically 120 pound-feet of torque. And now we got 159 pound-feet of torque, huge improvement. And we're 6 watts shy of 10,000 watts. So basically 50% more torque, double the horsepower. And I also enabled flux weakening, which on the dyno gave me enough RPM to get about 5 miles an hour more on the top end speed. I'll find out what that actually means on the road in our road test, minus the fact that we'll have a sidecar attached. That is pretty nice, huh?
Yeah. If you didn't flux.
The flux weakening only helps the top speed.
And that's my question. So we doubled everything pretty much.
Yeah.
But you only got 4 miles an hour?
Well, flux weakening can only do so much.
Right.
So,
But,
yeah.
so if you didn't flux.
Wattage and torque would remain the same. It wouldn't change those. It just gives us more RPM once it gets up to the max. So 100 and, I'm just gonna round it off here, 159 pound-feet, and I'm just gonna say 10 kilowatts.
But it was 5.5 kilowatts, right? Before.
5.1.
So I'm not, let's just be quicker.
Well, it's gonna be way quicker and have a higher top speed.
But only 5 miles an hour.
Yes.
I'm just confused why it's not more than 5. Because we're doubling
Well, it's,
watts and torque a little bit by.
we're gonna stop and we're gonna explain this right now on camera. Okay, so, especially given that this is a hub motor, this is very easy to explain. There's no reduction, there's no gearing we can change, right? So, this motor has a certain kilovolt rating. In other words, it will go X amount of RPM per volt you feed it. The more voltage you feed it, the more RPMs you will get. Ignoring current, let's just saying there's basically no load, barely any current, you just apply voltage at only a few amps, you could get that motor to spin up at a certain RPM, which, because it's a hub motor, we can just say it in miles per hour. So stock, it would basically spin up to, we'll just say, 55 miles per hour, right? Normally, the only way to make this go faster than 55 miles per hour, because it's a hub motor and there's no gearing to change, would be to go from 72 volts to a higher voltage.
98.
Exactly. And then we would get proportionally more RPM out of it, assuming it doesn't kill something. But that's how you can get more top speed. But in this case, we didn't change the voltage. So now the question is, how did we get more speed at all?
Right.
So with flux weakening, it's basically like you're offsetting the timing at which the electromagnetic pulses are interfacing with the physical magnets in the motor to make the magnets weaker.
It spins fast.
Which sounds counterintuitive in a way. You think, wouldn't it be stronger? But the stronger the attraction is in a motor, the more torque you get. But when it's weaker, there's actually less resistance and you can actually get more speed out of it. So what the flux weakening does is it's like physically weakening the magnets, but we're just doing it electronically to squeeze out a tiny bit more RPM. But it won't do double the RPM. It can't make that much of it. We're limited to the motor. It's a very fine tuning. You can only get a little bit out of it when you kind of change the timing of it. So you can get a little more, not a massive amount, but a little bit. If I really want to get more than this, I gotta go up from 72 volts. Okay, so we're gonna put the Knight back where it belongs down here. And just for the fun of it, I'm still gonna put this one on the dyno board so we can see where it fits in, even though this isn't stock. And surprisingly, that's gonna put it right here. 159 pound-feet of torque, 10 kilowatts. The Naxion Light is still more powerful, more horsepower, a good amount of torque more, but this is a massive improvement for a very, very small cost. Again, I'm not recommending you crank it up this much. It might cause some problems, but I'm not afraid to push it and see what is the breaking point. Now let's put the sidecar back on.
I think the only downside now is my battery life is going to be really bad if I use all that power. So what I've done is basically this bike is set up with 3 gears, as they call them. It's basically 3 different power levels. And I have level 2 set slightly above what level 3 or max power was previously. So in level 2, I'm getting a good amount of power and it's fun. Level 1 is for just cruising around town. But if I bump it into 3, then I got some serious power. So this is 3. And before this bike would max out at like 50 miles an hour. And we just hit 55 with a sidecar on. I'm gonna bump it down to 2 because I don't want to risk burning anything out on the road or tripping a breaker. So yeah, this isn't too bad. It does take a little bit of the leaning motorcycle fun out of it, but it's still fun in a different way. Now that I've actually experienced this a little bit, it reminds me a lot of my recumbent trike. I kind of have to do the same thing on it. You got to really shift your body weight over side to side as much as you can in the seat, because you can't lean into the turns and you don't have the same stability as something on 4 wheels. This is a little more extreme because all your weight is one-sided, but it is kind of the same idea. Oh, there we go, lifted that right wheel just a little bit there.
It's so weird to be able to just keep your feet on the pegs and not have to put them down. It's kind of nice though.
This is the part where I have to point out that my daughter saw this in the shop before I brought it home with the sidecar on it and asked repeatedly if I would bring this home so she could have a ride in it. She was waiting for me outside when I got home, so I didn't even have time to tighten down that left side mirror. She hopped in and we went for a spin.
Ready?
No.
You wanted this.
Are you filming?
Yeah? You having fun? All right, here we go. Some final thoughts for you here on the Eahora M1PS, both on the power tuning situation and the sidecar. First off with the sidecar, because this is a factory option that anybody can buy. This was a lot of fun. I got used to it actually pretty quick. The steering felt really weird, but this was my first sidecar experience, so I did have to learn that you just don't ride it like a motorcycle anymore. It's completely different. You actually steer, you don't counter steer, there's no leaning. It's just weird. Well, you do lean, but you lean way into the turn to try and keep your balance. It's just different than I was used to. But Now that I've ridden it for several days in a row, I feel like I've got the hang of the whole sidecar thing, and I like it. Even though most of the time I didn't have a passenger in the sidecar, I will say having a sidecar is really handy for hauling stuff. I threw so much junk into this thing the last few days, and it was so convenient. I tossed the charger in there, my backpack, camping chairs, all sorts of stuff to do different things, and it was great to just be able to throw things in somewhere and just go. Here's one little thing I would probably tweak if I was going to use the sidecar all the time. The shocks on the bike normally work pretty good, and I was pretty happy with them. But they're a bit soft if you've got a passenger or actually a load in there. So I would probably stiffen these up and replace them with something with a firmer spring. The way this suspension works and the way the sidecar is mounted, because it's mounted on the swing arm, when you sit on this and the suspension sags, so I'm gonna sit down and put my weight on it, you can see how much the sidecar dips down when I sit and put my weight on it. And then when you put a person in the sidecar, it then even dips further down, so your ground clearance starts to disappear very quickly. This thing really isn't big enough for an adult. We tried putting an adult in it. Legs don't fit, but weight-wise, the thing starts to bottom out. So you would really need stiff suspension if you're gonna put that much weight in there. Obviously not quite designed for that, but I think just stiffening it up a little bit would help. And that's about it. Yeah. That's it. I do like the fact that even though it's a little bit of a process to install this thing, it's actually really easy to go back and forth. So you just have some bolts clamped onto the frame up top. There's another bracket down on the bottom that's bolted on. So a total of 6 bolts that hold this bracket on. And then you have one big long bolt in this pin here, and then this joint here. So if you want to take the sidecar off, you can actually just remove this long bolt and remove this one right here, and then the whole sidecar can come off. And then you just leave this bracket on. So I did that to do the dyno run on this video. Really wasn't a big deal to remove it and put it back on. So I like the fact that it's not like the sidecar has to live on it all the time. I was a little worried that I put the sidecar on and it's kind of just stuck on there and kind of a pain to remove it. It's not really the case. It's like a 5-minute job to take on and off. And I rode it to the shop today, and just so I wouldn't take up space inside, I parked it out here. So many people came and looked at this bike today. I had people sitting on it, taking pictures with it. They really just like the way it looks. It's definitely unique. It definitely has been a lot of fun. Thanks again to Eahora for sending that to me. Now, lastly, on the power issue, technically, yes. Can you put out 10,000 watts on a dyno by cranking it up? Yes. Is it usable? No. 2 reasons why. 1, if you were to use that much power, the battery's just not big enough. You're gonna suck this battery dry really, really fast. But the bigger problem was, battery's also just not big enough to handle that kind of load for extended periods. So when I was watching the battery gauge, the voltage drop was pretty severe. So I don't really trust it. I think if I'm going to try and actually soup this thing up to that kind of power level, I'm gonna have to do something different with the battery. The stock battery is just not made for that. It works great on the 5,000 watt setup the bike comes with, but 10,000 watts is just too much power for how the way this thing is set up. So I'm debating what I'm gonna do with this thing next. We do have an awful lot of room here that could be filled with more batteries and solve that problem. It solved the range problem, it solved the voltage sag problem. Am I gonna do that? I'm not sure yet. You let me know in the comments. Should we dump more money into this thing and make it faster, longer range, more performance than what it is now? Or is it good enough as is?